Hey y'all, welcome back to New Slang. I'm your host, music journalist Thomas Mooney. All right, so this week we're kicking it off being joined by Joe Firstman, the frontman for the Americana country rock band Cordovas. This past Friday, they released the new album called Destiny Hotel. I really enjoy this album. There's like this unhurried energy, and it just has like a really easygoing temperament. There's a calmness to these songs, and I think that's because Joe and company, they seek out a earthy and organic sonic quality. The harmonies are just absolutely perfect, and I mean that in the like where they're not too complex or they're not too crazy, but along with that and the B3 organ and piano, they just add that warm texture. And it just feels, like I said, kind of like that natural, very organic and rootsy feel to them. I feel like this is probably something everyone's felt, but like, have you ever kind of rubbed a wool blanket or a Mexican poncho or maybe like a scarf, like where it's just a little bit more coarse and fibrous? To me, that's really how this record feels. It's very instinctive and natural, and just like I said, kind of like that earthiness to it, where you just kind of know that these songs were not overproduced. I do think there's this interesting blend of roots music happening here as well. At times, there's more of that Appalachian based kind of roots music or East Coast. If we're going to include like artists like the band and Dylan and whatnot. And then at times, like these songs, they're a little bit more through like a West Coast lens, more of the country version of the Dead or the LA country stuff. Think more of the country stuff from like the Byrds or Gene Clark or Buffalo Springfield, and less so of the Eagles or Jackson Browne. Though a song like Warm Farewells from the record, that's probably like a little bit of a Tequila Sunrise kind of something or another. At any rate, there's this really interesting exchange and blending of those two camps on Destiny Hotel. Anyway, this one right here with Joe, it's really good. We get into some really great conversation about those differences between the East and West Coast roots music, a lot about Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey, the importance of art and creators in our society, and of course, the writing, the recording, and the songs of Destiny Hotel. Today's presenting sponsor is Desert Door Texas Sotol. If you know anything about me, it's probably that I'm from the heart of West Texas and absolutely love everything about West Texas. And that's really why I love Desert Door so much. You may be asking yourself what exactly Sotol is. Well, it's a premium spirit that's similar to a tequila or a mezcal, but for my money, it's a little bit more refined and smooth. There's a sweetness and faint hints of vanilla and citrus. And it's also as versatile as your garden variety vodka. At its core, Desert Door is authentically West Texas. They go out and harvest Sotol plants from the wild and bring them back to their distillery over in Driftwood, Texas. So next time you're at your local liquor store, get a bottle of Desert Door. For more info, check this episode's show notes. If this is your first time listening to New Slang, I strongly suggest hitting that subscribe link. If you just did, I'm giving you a virtual high five right now. New Slang is over on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, and basically any and everywhere you listen to podcasts. Go check out the New Slang merch store, grab a koozie, some stickers, buttons, and magnets. Any bit helps. I'll throw a link into the show notes. And if you're into playlists, go check out Tom Mooney's Cup of Coffee and the Neon Eon playlists over on Spotify. The Neon Eon is for all your nostalgic 90s country needs, which there's going to be more Neon Eon related stuff coming your way pretty soon. And then Tom Mooney's Cup of Coffee is a regularly updated mix of new Americana and country music. It's also a really great hint at who I have coming up on the podcast. So yeah, go follow those. Okay, let's get on to the interview. Here is Joe Firstman of Cordovas. Yeah, well, next month, you guys are releasing this new album here. And I guess, I read that you guys finished up recording right on those, last days, right before we kind of went into shutdown and whatnot. Was that kind of did you ever feel the pressure of we need to finish this up before this happens, or did it just kind of coincide you guys were finishing up at the same time?
The pressure was so immense that we had put on ourselves to do a good job on the budget that the label gave us, and in the time that we had booked up in LA, that we were in Mexico, down where we spend the winter, and the signs were there, like the Italian restaurant closed down and it never closes. And so we were like, what the fuck is that all about? And so the thing started happening, but we kind of finished recording. We went to my old bar that I used to go to every night when I lived in LA, and that was the last night I was in a bar. So that the calamity of the pandemic was just simply simultaneously happening. But it had, for the pressure and the minimal amount of days, you would have thought that we were fighting, trying to record in the middle of a war or something.
Yeah, I kind of envision like Godfather 2, like whenever they're trying to get out of Cuba, like the revolutions kind of happened, and it's not safe anymore. It's in the middle of that war, and there's like a lot of that uneasiness.
Uh-oh.
Are you there?
Yeah, you cut out for a minute.
Oh,
I'm on Wi-Fi, so I think I'm good, but I can go off if that's better.
No. I mean, you sound pretty good over here right now, so I'll cut that.
Yeah, I mean, we were just like we're always pretty. We have a doctor in our crew. My friend who I live with and have a kid with is a doctor. So she tries to keep the band not so grimy, and so we were already like that and stuff a little bit as best we could be. But then during the making of that record, which was only 4 days or something, like I went up 3 days early and the boys got there, so it was like 4 days with everyone. During the middle of that, we were kind of like hypersensitive of the pizza guy and washing everything off. And yeah, we were just kind of like getting on the plane going like, whoa, this was some timing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In saying that, you know what I really love, it feels like this record, there is like that easy flow nature. It kind of feels stress-free in a lot of ways, and really kind of, or just naturally organic. So somehow you guys still were able to capture that kind of feeling in sonically.
I'd certainly appreciate that kind of observation. We had to think out really well how we were going to do it, to say nothing of the preparedness of the band, which was highly prepared. Not just your part, not your harmony, your other guy's harmony, both harmonies. You should be able to sing the lead, know all the lyrics, be prepared for our producer Rick to kind of throw any idea at us and be able to react and do it immediately without wasting any time. And so we were already all over it. Now, the way that we did that to try to get some smoothness, which I was worried about a lot, was I went in 3 days early, like I said, and I kind of grooved everything out on the acoustic guitar, and like played it all like an album. And then kind of brought drummers over behind me, my favorite guys from my LA days. And then the boys came in and put the guitars and keyboards over the top. And so it had that natural flow of maybe like a show. And so if the end of a song, I just felt like I did it unlike we'd ever played them, But I appreciate you saying that, because I was certainly worried that it would sound like robotic or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's always one of those things where if it sounds easy, and if somebody's making it look easy, that means like they put like a shit ton of work in to make it.
Remember how Barry Bonds used to, catch a simple pop fly? It was just like, could this guy look fucking like it's any easier? Like he could be checking his text right now, and that's because he was such a gangster, right? Such a ninja.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's just one of those things where the easier it looks, if it looks easy on the outside, like that person has just put in so much effort. And I think like there's like a lot of like, again, like this record, it feels really organic and loose in a way that it makes it feel like you guys just kind of went in the room and just came up with it in the spur of the moment. So.
Well, that's also a lot of how we play. But let me remark on what you were talking there with the easy looking thing. I think I'm a big proponent of what you're talking about, like sports, chess, whatever you're doing, like chopping. It shouldn't look like your back's all like chopping tomatoes. It shouldn't look like your back's all like out of place. Like, dude, have you ever done this? You know, like sweeping, like you can always tell a bro whose parents didn't make him do anything because he doesn't know how to sweep, you know? Mm-hmm. And so, like, yeah, making it look easy is really important, not because of the looks of it, because it gives the indication that the artist has the presence of mind to not only be doing his job and executing it at a high level, but also maybe be thinking about something else, like directing some energy towards the emotional quality or the performance or something else like that. And now we're getting into what I like to identify as, you know, like starts to sound like more international, more world class, and less like local bar band stuff, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Like give a shit about what you do, you know, that's a big
deepness.
key.
Yeah.
And then also just like something else that adds to this that I don't know if a lot of people really pick up on is I really like just the brevity of these songs. You know, this is like despite being like, you know, 10 songs long, a good chunk of music, you know, it's in and out. About 30 minutes, and I really love that.
You know, it's like if you listen to there's so many examples, and I wouldn't want it to sound like I was disparaging the guys or something, but like it's a folk song. You know what I mean? It's a folk song. And so we don't want to get too caught up in not being able to like sit down with the guitar and like somebody go, hey, play me this one. We're like, oh, well, I need my beat machine for that one. And the drummer's not here. So, you know, we can't, and I play piano on this one. So, you know, you play the song, right? It should be decent and stable enough of a piece of art that, you know, that you could handle it and do it. So, and with that comes like not needing to draw the point out, you know, like it's 3 minutes. Look, man, if you've ever seen Cordovas play, it's not 3 minutes live. We play the little 3 minute, but that's the meat. Sandwiched around it is like as much mayhem as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, no, I really dig it. Now, obviously, like the feel of this record has that a lot of the Southern California, the Grateful Dead aspects, those harmonies, right? Just kind of like that, like I'm saying, like that organic feel. But obviously, you guys you're also from the East Coast, like the Appalachia, Carolina area.
Right.
What's it been like, I guess, blending? In reality, we're just talking about American music here, so they can't be too different. But like, there still is some distinctness between the two places. Every place kind of has its own sound and feel. What has it been like, I guess, blending these two rich cultural areas together and kind of creating something new and fresh?
I'm always inclined to answer these kind of questions with a Southern accent. I went from Carolina to the West Coast, finding out that everybody out there was trying to sound like Carolina guys. Really, like the Midwestern guys, everybody was Southern all of a sudden, and all right. You know, it was just like everybody had on the mother of pearl shirt. And I was going, wait a minute. This is how my big daddy sings just like these guys want to sound. I mean, this is my birthright. But there's something not just in the California music, because there's only just a few examples really, like the Burrito Brothers and, you know, like the Dead. But there's not... What we're really talking about is a style, a cultural style, the way they dress, man, those shoes on Venice Boardwalk, the skaters and the little kids smoking cigarettes on the beach and man, like California. And so that is important to, I think, to our formula of music making. But then there's another aspect of what you're talking about. In our band, we have Toby, who's not just like a dude who's slightly familiar, who's from North Carolina, who's kind of slightly familiar with mountain music. Dude, he's steeped in it. It's the real thing. My grandfather played with Earl Scruggs. I mean, we really know that stuff deep in our bones. Not that we perform that stuff specifically, but it's something that I think when you can go to California and not just kind of glaze over it. I was there for 18 years. I was entrenched. I lived with the beach peoples. I had to find out the difference and was going to only be there for a minute, versus the people that were born and raised there and went to Crespi and grew up in Malibu or grew up in East LA. And you start to see how those kids from Torrance really talk and what's important to them, and that laid backness. And so not just think you know Southern music, have some people who have a deep understanding of it, and then be able to use it as an ingredient, and not just have gone to California. Well, like you hear so many songs, man. We went to California and they just didn't warn me, and I had my heart broken, and here I am back in Texas, and oh man, it's terrible, but I'm still rich, and it never fucking mattered because I was never homeless, right? So like we hear these dreams, we went to Mexico, like no one really did it. They glazed over those chapters in their life. They went and they extrapolated what were the cutest parts for the best part of their story. I went to LA and slept on the streets, man, and got a record deal and took the Greyhound there. Not that that's any better than anybody, but I feel like I didn't glaze over the situation. I signed that deal at the Peninsula with my sleeves cut off on Atlantic, and had that check come into my bank account. I lived all of those things. I went on national TV and rode around in a limo like a total lunatic in my 20s. And so that not having glazed over LA, I think, was important. Spending as much time as you need to down at the beach and really understanding that beach culture. It's completely separated from Hollywood. And then you've got something to put into your soup.
Yeah. I think it's so easy to just, do the thing where you get the t-shirt, you just kind of check off I went and slept in the same room Graham Parsons had it.
Right.
That kind of stuff. That's easy to just check those boxes and go back home and say that you tried, and
that's what they do, homie. You know what I mean? That's what these cats do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But of course, I think any place you want to understand, you have to get on the ground level. You have to get where the locals are. And it's not just the Instagram.
That's funny.
Photo.
Well, during the middle of all that, when I was having limousine service, I say that because it just sounds so ridiculous, man. I was homeless not 2 years later, sleeping in the truck, at least, not homeless. And but after a while, when I was on TV, I did get kind of I was losing my sense of it all, and I started taking public transportation down the Blue Line and everything through Compton, and taking public for 3.5 hours all the way out to the studio where they shot the thing, and really getting down there and being at the bus stop and waiting there and sitting with the people, and it was part of the adventure. It was really exciting.
Yeah. I guess I've read on this record that you guys kind of had upwards of 50 songs to choose from that you guys had been working on, and obviously cut it down for the record. What is that process like as far as kind of dwindling it down and making a cohesive 10-song record?
Right. The record, the process starts as soon as your previous one is kind of officially spoken for, and those songs are out in one way or another, they're out, right? We're putting shit out on our own, or a small label, whatever the deal that you've got going. But it's ones that you kind of feel good that they're out there, and you're not going to try to go do them again, right? Mm-hmm. To make that part simple. So you've kind of got those last 10 that were on Santa Fe, that were officially on that Santa Fe channel. And then everything else was fair game for the next thing that hadn't also been on a Joe Firstman record or the first Cordovas record, right? So there's what you're starting with. Usually those didn't make it on something for a reason, but you've got a nice pool of things. And as you progress as a musician, it's due diligence to kind of revisit some of your old material and see if you can breathe new life into it. But generally you're writing songs anew, and you're getting into your process. And that started when Santa Fe we knew what was going on that. And so we just start pushing Luca. At 50 is probably understatement. We had more than that. Luca was really pushing. I was pushing. Toby and I was pushing. We were even did a few co-writes. It's Nashville. We just really didn't want to shut off any roads. Of course, one of my great friends and writing partners, Brian Wright, was deeply involved, and he's always kind of has his mind on melodies for Cordovas and things that might work for us. So we just diligently start doing what the Dead did, man. We start playing the songs out. We start seeing which ones get reacted. We start listening to them in the car the next day. We play hundreds and hundreds of shows, so you have a lot of chance to throw things in there. Every show is not, Wembley, so you have a few throwaways there where you can start injecting some tunes in, and it's a huge process. Okay, and then we get to Mexico, where we really we started advancing the process, accelerating it. With the daily kind of during the week, everybody starts meeting over at my house down there, and we start kind of going through things very officially, making tapes. By this time, you've kind of decided on a producer, and he's kind of involved. And our job ultimately is to not be precious about one or the other, give them all the right attention, do them the best you can, don't favor one to the next like children, and then present them to other people like the label and your management, whoever, your girlfriend, the janitor, gardener, whoever. See if he bobs his head. Don't be elitist about it. And then you start getting a feel, and that dwindles it down. And then the producer, at the last minute there in Mexico, before we came to LA, we sat on FaceTime or whatever and played them all. And he just kind of made his notes, and he kind of said, "Okay, you got it down to 30." And then we had the next day, and we played them all again and got it down to 15. And then we got it down, and then so we kind of came to LA with like basically 10 to 15 that we thought were going to be good.
Yeah. I like when a band, road tests songs, they play them live, but not on record.
Yeah.
It's so easy to just play what's on the record and, and I guess kind of get stuck in that kind of way of not, hey, this is a new song, guys. We're playing it for the first time tonight. That it's very easy to just kind of, I guess, hold on to them for some reason. But
those bands are in just a different world than us altogether, man. Mm-hmm. Because I just don't see, like, we don't ever play the songs like they're on the record, ever. Period. Ever. Period. I'm not capable. I'm simply not capable. I won't. So, like, whatever that is, I just think that, like, improvisation is such a vital part of even, like, wanting to have, like, some kind of road life. And it just doesn't seem like it pieces itself together very well when you have a road life, which is just about adventure and, like, new experiences every day and new places. And then you're presenting the same old thing in the same way. And it's back to that point, man. It's because they're not good enough to play their emotions on a daily basis and execute it without doing something by memory,
Yeah. And then, of course, like, there's the whole part about, a record can be more so a snapshot. And that, like, once you finish recording a song, it doesn't necessarily mean it's done. There's an aspect of it being finished right then, but it doesn't mean it's done. You can change and morph, and there's plenty of great examples of guys, 15 years later changing the song up. Just think of all, like, the Dylan stuff that's changed over years.
Yeah, and the Dead would add new meaning. I found even in my own, my own little trough of scrappy little songs that I've tried to come up with over the years. They take different forms. You live in them, and then you understand them better, and you understand maybe you understand things that you didn't know what you were talking about back then, and you maybe even see them as beautiful. You certainly see the ones that are knuckleheaded and bad, man. I have so many examples of failed verse it's laughable,
Mm-hmm. Well, you mentioned earlier you kind of go back and revisit songs that maybe that didn't get cut before and that are kind of older, and you do find some new meaning in them, or you try and get them to work this time around. What's been like is there like any examples of a song like that on this record that's kind of older than the rest that just kind of rose to the top once you started working again?
This song "I'ma Be Me," which I wrote with my cousin, who's born and raised in New York City, and he's got a real good way with rhyme and verse. And again, man, it was just like it was due diligence to play all of them, and I think this is one of the few ones that kept kind of not getting on a record. And but we play it live, and it has all the whole stuff. I'ma be me, I'll be y'all. Math adds up, where the scale has flaw. And and so I just, once again, as far as the recording process, I played it on acoustic to a click, and we came in and laid it over top of that, but it had a decent feeling to it. And again, it was I didn't want to be a part of the choosing of the song. So, the producer liked it, the manager, everybody liked it. So I don't care. They put it on there, but that's one of the ones that's been lingering around many recording attempts,
This episode is in part brought to you by the Blue Light Live here in Lubbock, Texas. There is a way to help A, support Blue Light, and B, get a sense of that normalcy by visiting bluelightlubbock.com, clicking on the merch tab, and getting some koozies, a vast array of t-shirts and caps, and yes, even a Blue Light flag. While it is such a bummer that live music is still on hold right now, I'm telling you, by getting some Blue Light Live merch, you're going to feel better. It just feels better wearing a t-shirt and ball cap and helping support your favorite bar. Again, that's bluelightlubbock.com. Click on the merch tab, get some merch. All right, back to the episode. I read that you got really into some Joseph Campbell stuff around.
Sure, we love him.
Yeah, I think like he's like one of the few. I think every artist needs to kind of read his stuff because I think it'll make not just your own stuff better, but like I think you understand storytelling so much more once you've really dived into like the hero's journey and stuff like that.
I completely agree. I think it'll make your stuff better. I think it bolts you to reality better, in which case allows your sense of imagination to even be bigger.
Mm-hmm. Well,
because it's not false imagination. You're not caught in this like mythical thing,
Right. Well, I think like it's one of those things too where a lot of artists are obviously constant readers and obviously just you take in a whole lot of art in general. And I think like sometimes people for some reason will think like that means that you're being influenced by like on a influence as far as like the actual writing part or like the storytelling part. But I think like what somebody like Campbell does more so is like it makes you understand being an artist better and like more of you get what I'm saying?
I absolutely do, without question.
Well, like what do you think like has been like the greatest revelation that you've kind of had?
Oh, and as far as literature or outside art making an influence?
Yeah.
Man, I had a lucky art life, man. My mom was a fearless artist, opera singer. You know what I mean? As I mentioned, my grandfather could, played guitar really well and sung and played in the Appalachian Mountains on those circuits back in the 40s, I guess, 50s. And they weren't maybe not so good of types of scenes, Big Mama could paint beautifully. Everybody could throw it down, man. On my dad's side, my dad plays real good guitar and sings. All his sisters were like opera people. And having pens and pencils was important. My mom really was, she kept that stuff around for me. So being an artist, just growing up and wanting to be an artist was just really something that I still feel like I did when I was a child. And that's I think the most important thing. I think, and then your taste for that and your love for having like, created a piece of art, for instance, and like the third graders all thought it was dope or whatever. You knew something was special. You peeked over at your friend's art and you were at another place or something, and however you can get the motivation, man, because it's like you could be Picasso, you could be born wealthy and be great. You could be poor, come out of a bad neighborhood and be great. We don't care. We just like the good stuff. That's what we need. The world just needs the good stuff. So, right, as far as your influences and stretching them out and getting that Joseph Campbell in there, and you're going to need that Eckhart Tolle in there, man, because he's making things again real practical. He might not be helping you with your verse like Rainer Marie Rilke will when he's talking about letters to a young poet. These are things that are vital, Thomas. When I was in Hollywood, being a fool and trying to be a rock star, wannabe, and being on Atlantic and blowing and sabotaging my record deal and my life's dreams. In the midst of all that, women were leaving books at my house, and it was all these things. Mm-hmm. It led to Marcel Proust, in our present day, the way that we're passing around in this band, Garden of the Prophet and Confucius getting passed up down the stairs. And, I'm looking at like Montaigne. We read this guy, Michel de Montaigne. So that's a big part of it for us, because I'm a big part of like, yeah, and you're not going to be too swayed by any influence, man. If you sit there and listen to like Quincy Jones for 3 days and you're like, I'm going to write it like it's not going to sound anything like Quincy Jones. You know who told me that? Quincy Jones, man. He was on the TV show I was on, and we fucking kicked it for like 2 hours after the show. So you know what I mean? Just keeping the art pumping, and then when you're referring back to Michel de Montaigne and Joseph Campbell, these guys are they're gonna enhance your sense of art, and maybe remove your sense of self. But that's the journey that one is going to have to figure out. But I do know that if my guitar player, when he goes down and he sits there and reads Rainer Maria Rilke, he comes back the next week with more attention, more awareness, more poetry, more liveliness, more sense of adventure, and fucking my favorite thing, unpredictability.
Yeah. Like I think it's so easy to just kind of like you're kind of saying, like getting wrapped up in losing like your sense of like why you wanted to do this in the first place.
Right.
There's so many temptations out there, and I think at some point you either get knocked down and realize, oh shit, this is what was all that about? How do I get back in connection with the real stuff? Or you get tired of it, or whatever, and
or was I ever real in the first place?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what Letters to a Young Poet is basically. He gets to the point where he's saying, eventually, man, you got to look yourself in the mirror and go, am I artist enough? And be okay with a resounding no. Mm-hmm. Don't be a chump, don't keep lying. Don't keep making somebody pay for this.
Yeah.
Or get down to business. And again, the business is not going to just have started right then. It's going to have started a long time ago. And people like me have to sit there and decipher that tale that I just taught you about all my family and go, was that enough? Are you fucking artist enough, man? Well, then what did you do today?
Right.
You have to constantly hold your feet to the fire. And, man, that's why a lot of the bros that I know went away, certainly quit playing, but a lot of bros had to go away and pass away because of this shit,
Mm-hmm. You mentioned how like your family was so supportive of the arts. They all come from various artistic expressions, and I feel like that's so important for your development as a kid. Not even if you don't become a quote unquote artist, it just helps you understand and appreciate art in general, and like you just become like a little bit more well-rounded of a person. And I think that for me growing up, like no one really in my family played or did anything like that, but so I think growing up, I always kind of thought to become a musician, it's you become George Strait, right? Or you become the Beatles, and there's no middle ground. It's either 0 or 100. And I think that's a lot of people in this world. They kind of view the arts as that. It's either like something that you just don't do, or you're rich and famous and everything that goes along with that.
Well, you're hitting on something that in the middle of everything comes that ugly part of it that even I think even in the back of most artists' minds, somehow they get distracted along the way. I'm sure I have evidence of myself having been distracted many, many times. I don't feel distracted this moment. But I know the people in my family, there was less of support. It was there. You had it if you wanted it. Nobody was making you play the piano. The piano was there. You know what I mean? Your mom's an opera singer. You're going to ask her? Of course we're not going to ask her. Boys don't do that. We want to go eat dirt and play baseball. Somewhere in there, Thomas, the danger comes in where that you get it, right? You have to be famous or it's nothing. Mm-hmm. You have to be George Strait or it's nothing. And it makes it this daunting thing. And it makes it this like, well, you don't go do that. That's not going to be a thing. And then Lord have mercy with him. We get into the whole concept of like a side guy, a bro devoting his life to coming to Nashville from wherever after practicing so much and thinking he's capable and ready to get on the gig to go be a side guy for the next 30 years. What the fuck is that all about? For me personally, it's hard to understand that, man. Like you want to work your way up through the studio and get it, but to not have your own North Star and your own art, I think it would be hard for me to understand how to navigate with my little bits of skills. So you know what I mean? Like that part of your parents or society thinking that you're supposed to be great or that you're not supposed to do anything more than just goddamn sing at dinner. Just lift your voice and sing. People can't. If you sit around a circle with some of your neighbors and stuff and you go around the circle, people won't even fucking know how to sing. They'll be too scared. It'll be too weird. They'll be too pent up. It'll be too worrisome. It'll be too tragic. And, you know what I mean, man? It'll be
absolutely
traumatic because the person, the dad or the mom never once lifted their voice or the vibes are so gnarly at dinner. So you know what I mean? That's the deal with music. When you put it into yourself, hopefully, regardless if you're mean or you're sad that day or whatever's going on, I heard my dad play guitar. That was the gift. He didn't really want us to play his guitar because we were going to break it. And I heard my mom get up and rehearse and play piano. And I think that conditioned into me that gift that I was given rather than going, you're going to do this. That wasn't the case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think like that scaredness, that timidness
killer
is
a killer.
You can I don't know. It's just such a. Obviously, I think what it all goes back down to is the intimidation of failure or perception of failure.
That's correct.
And
my dad, God bless him, he may listen to this. He had some songs and stuff in the 70s and was tall and skinny and looked like a George Harrison or something, a big one, a huge George Harrison. And he went to Atlanta. I guess he may have performed for whatever label, and they said, you got to have 20 songs, man. Come back. That's a good one. Come back. And I just remember kind of coming up and being a teenager in my bands, and he was just kind of going, you got to have so many songs, man. Like you don't even know what you're talking about. And I just go, well, then I'll have a lot of songs. I mean, I've written hundreds of them. I've written with Willie Nelson, Bernie Taupin. So I don't know what the fuck he was talking about. That didn't stop me. I was told by some of the people closest to me, and really times where you're really getting ready to go pick, shitty college fucking jive or an adventure. And I was told by people closest to me that I had stars in my eyes. You know what I mean? You just got to say, fuck them, man. So you got to have some kind of part of you that says, fuck everybody.
Yeah.
My first manager in Hollywood, we got all the way up there. We got to the Atlantic deal. And then, it's all the way down to me back in my truck again. I'd made $1 million, man, or more. And I'm back in my truck sleeping in the thing. And I'm like playing in Delaware. And now my manager's living out there. And, and she goes, time to pull it off the road, dude. I was so heartbroken for that flash. I was like, are you crazy? I'm getting better. Oh, I see. This looks terrible. This looks failing and failures stop. And that way of looking, engaging, and judging things is bullshit.
Yeah. I think like there's so much of the business aspects come into the commercialization of art is what kills a lot of this. And when you kind of get that business look on an artist, they're two different worlds. And I think a lot of the times, you guys are lifers. Like there's no turning it off. So it's
I appreciate you saying that. The boys would appreciate you saying that too, man, because that's how we live, and that's how I've tried to teach these guys, and how they tried to teach me. You were just saying something else though that was important. What was it right before that?
Oh, just about like how commercialization
Right.
can just kind of
yeah
any kind of
the cats. A lot of cats that I come across, and it's like Spotify's taking all our money, and like. So it fucking sounds like IRS. Sounds like fucking taxes to me, man. I don't know what the fuck, I don't give a fuck about that at all. They're stealing your music. What? No, they're not. I mean, what? I don't care. So fucking is BMI not on the motherfucking case?
Yeah.
I mean, is ASCAP not handling this shit? What the fuck do they need me for? You know what I'm saying? It's like you got to do one or the other, man. And everybody, you're either proponent, good, being the proponents, but you're going to start being the business manager and the artist. I've tried that, man. I was sleeping in the car. The moment I could get a new manager, I begged this guy Chip to be our manager. And I was just so happy that somebody could fucking return emails for me, man. I don't want my mind having to think about any kind of business.
Yeah, like a lot of times when I'm talking with a lot of up and coming songwriters, they if you're like super independent and you don't have anyone handling that stuff, it can it's just kind of draining on the creative process. That I've know a lot of guys who have put out records, and they're putting out a record, and during that moment they're not really writing anything because all of their attention's gone to the handling of the business side. And of course, like granted, like that's part of it for them at that moment, but it's kind of also like, man, you gotta like, it's,
keep rolling. Yeah, you got to keep painting. Don't worry that your show's coming up in Amsterdam and all the paintings are sold. No. Fucking keep putting that paint to the board. I just lived what you just said. You're very insightful. You understand this deal a lot. I didn't do shit during the record, man. When the whole thing was just like, we knew, and fucking, I was so nervous. Then fucking, dude, the manager calls me one morning and he goes, "Good news, you got a street date." I fucking swung my fist in the air so hard, I fucking threw my shoulder out, dude. It was just, we have so much tied up in it, and you do good. The Dovas do good, and this is important by keeping it weird, bro. Keep the fucking greenery around. Keep a nice bottle of tequila generally on hand. Keep it weird. Keep candles and incense on hand so that you can make a little nook for yourself at some point and go grab a piece at the night and turn it into a song like we just did right now here and talking. We have to be able to seize the moment and draw on the moment and through that at all times. But you're identifying a very unique little part of the artist's life in this time when his records coming out. It freezes shit, and you're smart to know that.
I wanted to talk to y'all one more time about our new partners at Desert Door and offer up a handful of my favorite ways to drink it. Get you a Mexican Coca-Cola, have a couple of swigs, then pour yourself some Desert Door Oak aged in, toss in a lime wedge or two, or how about this? Pour some Desert Door into a mug, top off the glass with some ginger beer, squeeze in a lime. Or for all you ranch water drinkers out there, get you a Topo Chico, take a couple of pulls off, and then pour in some Desert Door. Toss in a couple of lime wedges, and now you have a mighty tasty and refreshing ranch water. Remember, Soto is as versatile as vodka and has a more refined, smooth, and a more complex palate than tequila. It's rich and balanced, and whatever your go-to drink is, it'll make it that much better. And again, it's inherently West Texas. It tastes like home. For more info on Desert Door, check our show notes. All right, that's it for Thomas Mooney's Cocktail Minute. Let's get back to the show. Yeah, like I think like also with that though, right now we're in such a weird time. Obviously, there has been that great pause on playing places, and so with that all added on to releasing a record, not being able to play around and support these songs, what kind of frustration has been added to this entire process?
Zero. And I have to say it's the opposite. It's only added good things. And one of the reasons is if you start at the first part, make something built to last. Period. When the first time that 3 days in and that girlfriend of yours that you're really in love with, that first thing that you guys start gnawing at each other, identify it right then. Because when it starts lingering, you're gonna have a crack in the foundation. You don't got something built to last. And you're gonna fucking go 5 years of your life when you should have had when you would have been saved of that by one conversation, right, or two. So the first thing is build something to last. How do you do that? You make a band at our level. What does everybody across town see? Your rehearsal on Wednesday. Oh, it's raining. Oh, what? No. You got to rehearse 24 hours a day to be in the Cordovas. So how do you pay for it, right? That's not our problem. Our problem is rehearsing 24 hours a day and being in Cordovas. If we have to go do it under the street corner or in a box, or if we have to do it at my little surf cabin in Mexico, no problem. As it stands, we have a different, more livable situation than that in Nashville. And so the Cordovas eat, sleep, smoke, drink, play all the time. We live together, so we haven't stopped playing at all. In fact, we've been able to really, really dial in some of the stuff that you might not want to dress in the thick of long tours the way that we always do. In parentheses, my friend, I have a 2-year-old. Now, nothing's really going to stop me from being on the road if there's a person saying, Joe, come sing. We want you to come sing. Bring you guys. Right. It's too amazing and it's too built into me to turn that down. I don't quite, at this point at 40 years old, I don't know how to turn that down. But we can't do it now. Okay. So we obviously have played 100 shows already this year online. Real shows, candles lit, bottles of tequila, all of our fans there. We go back, listen to them, make the notes. Our band's gotten better. As far as you say, the promotion part, I disagree. I mean, for us, we're seeing more new people every week that there's no way we'd be able to reach whatever the thing says on the Blue website, 10, 15,000 people on one of our shows. We ain't going to be able to do that in Roanoke tonight. There's going to be 13 people, and it's going to be tough, man. And you're going to be really paying to not break your backs, to find a bed for everyone. Part of the deal, you got to make something built to last. That's what the moral of the story is. And so when these things come along, it ain't nothing, dude. This is regular. And if anything, it's if you have something real, a real thing going, then it might even get stronger.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I talking with a lot of people during this past, 4 or 5 months, I think it's always been the ones who have like anytime there's something that changes something, right? Anything that like changes the world, it's those who can adapt the quickest, who find that they're able to go on. And
that's right.
And obviously, like streaming shows or like just other creative outlets, finding ways to connect with people. That's who have been the most productive during all this. And what I find really interesting is if you asked any songwriter, like, what's the one thing that you could use right now? A year ago, 90% of them would say, "Oh, more time to write and create." And then all of a sudden, you just get this big whopping amount of time.
You don't do shit.
Do that. And well, how do you? I think like it's weirded some of them out. It's
yeah, man. And again, people are like getting into the business parts and all the other stuff. Yeah, this is a gift. And it seems like maybe the perception is something otherwise. This is an a gift for any artist. It's all level. We're all even. The playing field's level, man. We're all stopped in the same place. Your real artistry stands out. If you're a beautiful artist, people are going to care about what you're saying and doing. If you don't have anything to do, we play 3 fucking times a week. I mean, I don't know. If there was nobody up there watching it, we wouldn't do it. Simple as that. You know what I mean? Of course we have to change it up every time. I mean, that's the fucking name of the game. You know what I mean? Who would watch the same dudes doing the same songs in the same way? I mean, that's not fun at all. So this has been good, man. I've been able to hang out with my little friend, small friend that looks like me. You know, man, we got the garden in shape. The boys, you know, we're passing around the books. You know what the musician said during the Great Depression?
What's that?
What depression?
Yeah.
It's always fucking depression, man. We didn't get into this for any fucking money or any goddamn.
Yeah.
I hate the sob story. Oh, my tour dates are taken away. Like, first of all, they weren't yours. Nothing is. Read some Joseph Campbell and come back in a week.
Yeah. Well, it's the first thing I thought whenever all this happened was there's that, I can't think of what song it is, but there's that Alabama song where he talks about, you know, the stock market fell, but we couldn't tell, you know, like it,
right.
We were so poor we couldn't tell. And there's so much of that where, you know, it does go to that depression joke you got there.
Yeah, musicians shouldn't care, man. There's also like that scene on Titanic and shit where like the string quartet's like still playing. They're like the last ones working, you know. They're like, no, keep working, keep fucking playing. And that's how I feel, man. But you should feel like that. That's cool. I think Bob Dylan tries to keep a piece of that because he's always on the road. You know, he's just like, don't worry, man. Show your backstage pass. Don't think you're the big deal. I tried that. People got so turned off by me, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like one of the key things for Dylan is being on the road and like just kind of always even though he's like so influenced and inspired by so many old things, there's also like keeping around new people that can give you life, to keep you in touch with what's real.
Man, yeah, you just struck lightning on that one, my brother, because that's the thing that I think is you have to do in your relationship. If you got a boyfriend and girlfriend, you got a significant other, somebody that you care about, you got to bring new things, man. You got to see the world in new ways. You got to continue to grow. The dialogue must continue. The path, the learning, the joy, the connection has got to keep going. And that is a responsibility that you have as a bandmate. You have to put enthusiasm into your day. You have to put enthusiasm into the backstage hang. The dude sitting there unaware in his own mind is not adding and not helping what the fuck is getting ready to go out, what you guys are getting ready to go out there and try to do, which is to touch people emotionally, not to do a craft show.
Yeah. Yeah. The craft show. That's I like that.
We call it a lot of the stuff, you know, man, we call costume art, cos art, you know, cowboy hat and the shirt and everything. And, man, if you took away the costume, like, I don't know, would it be any good or something? I don't know. Like, why is there a costume, you know?
Yeah. Like I guess it's kind of related to what do they call it? Like the cottage industry. Like, you know, just like, something that's kind of perceived as being, you know,
cottage cheese
and real,
or like just some motherfuckers that are wearing shirts that look like they just built a cottage.
Well, like this whole like thing where like it's the perception of stuff that's like real and handmade and everything, but it's manufactured in a Chinese factory, you know, like that.
Oh yeah, big time
thing. So
yeah, that's the deal, man. We just want to. You got to do your part, man, and bring new things, and you got to share music with each other. You know, I just got 3 fucking songs. Me and Luca, he lives downstairs. We're passing them up and back and forth, and then he runs them, and then he goes and teaches them to Toby. Then I come out there and we all assemble. Yeah, man, it's like you got to be mad at yourself for not doing art that day. You got to have some kind of thing, and that's again where some of my friends were having that struggle, and it was too hard of a struggle for them. You got to be able to hold your footing and not let that blow you off the boat into the ocean. Like just hold on there now. hold yourself accountable. You told everybody you're going to be an artist. You did all this. You told your mom. You told your friends. Live by your words, and don't be afraid to fail. And I have one Rain on the Rail or High Feeling or whatever you want to call, or decent songs. Maybe I have written a decent one yet, maybe not. But I certainly know that I have thousands of failed verses. Mm-hmm. Those are victories, man. You know what I mean? Those are my failures. I fucking did those. Those are badass failures. In the movies, bad movies are loved in the movie industry. You know what I mean? It's a whole fucking genre. So, you know, man, you just do the work best you can, get less cheesy, read more books, and your lyrics will be refined, remove wanting and thwarted behavior, unless you're just remarking on it. You know, start to learn some of the rules.
Yeah. You know, I think, like, obviously these are things you've learned through experience. And I think experience helps to be that response, the accountability that you're talking about, the responsibility. One of my favorite songwriters and artists out there is this guy named Terry Allen, and he's from here in Lubbock, and you should check him out if you haven't before. But like, one of his big things is you kind of, even if you didn't finish a song or an idea today, you kind of have to be in that moment. You got to be aware of your moment, because it's going to help down the line. You may not like tackle it all in that once that afternoon, but like, if you have to be, if you're in that moment and you're aware of that moment, and just thinking about, you're going to be able to do it at some point. And I think like, you just learn that through experience, that you just can't force everything too. So yeah.
You can't force it. And, you know, you're getting better all the time. If you're refining the way that you're driving, or you're turning your truck in an expert fashion, precisely in coordination with that yellow line, or however that you were attempting to do it, or you're surfing and you're finding that beautiful line and you're tucking yourself right up on that wave, exactly in the trajectory that you want. My feeling is we're getting better at art when we're getting better at conversation, when we're getting better at love making or gardening, we're getting better at drawing, and we're getting better at piano. And that's one of the main things I've found. Like, I go away from drawing. I used to draw all the time. And then I come back to it 4 years later, and I didn't get worse. I got better because I'd been playing so much music somehow. You see? So like, it's also intertwined. Cleaning, you know, that's another thing. Attention and conversation. You get better at attention and conversation. You don't think you're going to get better at the musical dialogue within a song?
Right.
What? How could they have to work in the same fashion? Right.
Yeah. You know, like there's two things on that. Is like, one, like doing the what you would kind of consider the work around the house, the washing of the dishes, folding towels and stuff, laundry.
Yes.
Those shower thought moments, I think, are just, that helps. Once you go back and sit down to start working on something, you've already started the process. And then two, like, sometimes, like in modern society right now, we kind of like shoehorn people into, or pigeonhole people into, oh, you're a songwriter, you're a guitar player, you're a painter, you're a sculptor. And it goes back to the thing with Terry Allen, is that he never thought of himself as these individual things. You're just an artist. And, you know, like, your drawing does help the creative process for your songwriting, and the gardening does help with something else, and whatever the case is, it all is one thing. It's not 100 little different things.
No, they're all interconnected. How you do one thing is how you do everything. And yeah, it's like John Lennon too, man. You know, just give it. That's why I play all the instruments. Which one do I play well? None of them. I fucking know who Yo-Yo Ma is.
Yeah.
I know who fucking, you know, come on, man. I know who Leo Kottke is. I'm not going to call myself a guitar player. I know who Jocko is. I'm not calling myself a bass player. However, you ain't going to hear nobody that plays like me, because my main thing that I care about is that.
Right.
Your originality. And then because I've learned that through art, I learned that through seeing good artists in my art drawing classes coming up, render themselves not emotional and not powerful artists because of the boringness in their hearts, or the boringness and the lack of experience, the lack of chance taking.
Yeah. No, I think it's all great, man. Man, it's been really, really great talking with you today. I really enjoyed.
I appreciate it, Thomas.
And I've really, really enjoyed this conversation.
So have I, man. Yeah, you have a great sense of insight into this world. It's amazing that you're not a songwriter.
No, I'm not an artist or a songwriter.
You're not an artist,
that kind of thing. So
you have a great piece of insight. Well, I would never cut it off, because there's this guy Mark who's kind of like my biographer or whatever. This guy, and he is 50-something. And he just kind of hung out. I lived with him, we talked art a lot. We passed a lot of Joseph Campbell around. Anyway, one day he wrote a song, one of the best songs I've ever heard, first song.
Yeah.
So you never know. It's always there.
Yeah.
So anyway, pleasure talking to you, man, for sure.
It's been great. So. All right, that's it for this one. Y'all go check out Destiny Hotel by Cordovas. Big thanks to Joe for the conversation. Go visit our presenting partners over at Desert Door and the Blue Light Live. And yeah, go check out the Patreon and the merch store while you're at it. Okay, I'll see y'all later this week for another episode of New Slang.